Shalom, beloved family. It's your girl Sophia, Spiritualite, and we're here with a very, very exciting lesson for me. In this particular lesson, we're gonna talk about um, basically what Perry Stone called in his video the ancient spirit that has returned to the earth. I will link that video in the description box because it was my shock and awe to hear Perry Stone talking about the ancient spirit. And it was very strange because, you know, a lot of people saw the last video that he posted about the when he was talking about the zodiac, and this one about the Olympic spirit just seemed to have gone right over everybody's head. And I know why that is, but we're gonna deep dive into this because since Perry Stone said that spirit is coming, we need to be aware of what that spirit is, and not from the particular point of view of the heathens or the Gentiles, but what it means for us. And so the first thing I want to say is I have some unlisted videos. If you go back to my community post, I have an unlisted video on the Olympic spirits. I will also link that here in the description. That's going to be extremely helpful as a prerequisite. And then I have two other unlisted videos that I'll list in the link in the description that talk about the Mimax, the Beothuks, and the goddess of the mountain. And all those are also going to be relevant to understanding this because I'm not going to go back over that information. So if you're having a hard time following this video, I suggest you listen to those other videos and that'll make sense. So I had a list of the particular empires that Perry listed, and I was going to tie them with the time slots for the Olympic spirits, but obviously, that's not what this message is about because I couldn't find it. So, so that's how I know. First, let's go to Revelations 12. I don't have it open yet. My bad. I forgot that's what I was talking about. Let's start with Revelations 12. We're going to read part of this because as we're getting there, as I was trying to figure out, there we go. As I was trying to figure out if there are Olympic spirits, if there are the mother's angels, where are they in the Bible, and why aren't they listed? Why isn't it obvious who the mother's angels are? I have a particular issue with that, and so I was listening to another video. I think it was. Oh, I'll link it too. It was one this brother was on with Black Magic 363, Brother Rich, and he was talking about how he was a serpent king and how the serpent represents it's the representation of the mother and the father, because when it's in a circle, that's the mother, and when it's straight, that's the father energy. So depending on how you see the serpent, you know whether you have a feminine energy or a masculine energy, but it can do both. Plus it can shed its skin, which I had a bunch of snake skin outside my house, and I was like, I don't know what this really means, but my old man, he was like, it's snakes out there, it's a bunch of snake skins. I was like, oh really? He said, yeah, look at it. So I looked at it, and I was like, wow, that's a big snake skin. I'm not gonna go over there and pick that up, although if it's still there I might. Those are very, very valuable for healing purposes. So I was just, surprised, like, oh, all of a sudden now we have snakes, and they let me. This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? And I never thought no more about it, and so I kind of just, moved on because I wasn't sure what to do with the information. I didn't know how I related, and now as of this morning, and this is my second. I've been trying to record this video since Saturday night, really, and I just couldn't do it, and now I understand why I needed this last bit of information. And you know how I am. This is going to be I'm really excited about this. So, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven. This is Revelation 12. A woman clothed with the sun and a moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Okay, what is that? That's the earth. A woman, the earth, clothed with the sun on the top, and the moon under her feet. That's the earth, okay? And upon her head 12 stars. What are the 12 stars? Those are the 12 constellations that govern our planet, right? That come from Jupiter. And she, being with child, which is us, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another great wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, that's the mother, that's the Holy Spirit, having 7 heads and 10 horns. What is the 7 heads and 10 horns? The 7 heads is the 7 Olympic spirits, not the father spirits, but the mother spirits. Those are the Olympic spirits. And the 10 horns are the Sephiroth with our tree of life, okay? And 7 crowns upon his heads, right? 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. What are the crowns upon his heads? Those are the archangels. Those are the okay. So you have the Olympic spirits with 10 horns and the crowns upon his heads. Those are the archangels. Because the father's elements are air elements. So if it's upon his head, that's an air element. So what it is, I haven't gotten a chance to explain this, but Lord Oseron had did a video, and he said that the tree of life is actually 2 parts, a top part and a lower part, and you fold it together. It meets in the middle at Malkuth, and it folds on top of each other. So where that empty part that's Doth, that they say is, some mystical part, that's just from the other part of the tree. When you fold it together, that space is filled. All the others, they all duplicate. That space is filled when you fold it together. So that's the reason why they don't want to talk to it, because that's the union of the mother spirit, the feminine, the mother's angels and the father's angels. When it comes together, it's one Sephiroth. That's why it's 10 horns. Why is it 10? Because when you fold the thing together, it just makes 10. It's not separate 20. It folds together to make 10. It's just that space that's empty on the top half of the tree is filled by what's on the bottom half of the tree. I haven't gotten to talk about this yet, but that's how it works. I had figured this out, but I just haven't got a chance to talk about it. Because the other thing about that is, even before I go on with this, the tree of life that they gave us, it's proper and it's in the proper order, but they have the routes wrong. Like, the route that they tell you to take are not the right route to climb the tree. You have to climb in a different way. And so, anyway, I will, at some point, we'll talk about that once I make the visual. I've been working on it, but I haven't quite been able to figure it. But now I understand what that means. So you have the 7 Olympic spirits, you have the 10 horns, which is the Sephiroth of the fully united tree of life. And then you have the 7 archangels that are the father spirits, okay? And they unite on the tree of life. All right. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to earth. What does that mean? That means the people. That's the people who came into the earth, right? The chosen, the star seeds, quote unquote, who came to the earth and did cast him to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it were born. They use the term devour, but you could also use the term consecrate, or you could use the term what's another term? But not devour is to take it in, to take the child into the arms of the mother, right? To the Holy Spirit, right? This is the war, because the mother wanted to take in us. The mother wanted to work with us, right? So this is the war. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne, as opposed to being the mother. So this is why you have the Christ, instead of the Christ being the quote unquote savior, instead of the Christos Sophia being the quote unquote savior, which is the female version of the Christ. This is why you have the male version that was actually, put forth to us with Yeshua. You know what I mean? That's the reason why you have that. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. That's 1,260 days. I don't know what that means yet. So if somebody knows the drop, I'm sure Sister Amanda knows what 1,260 days means. Right? Okay, so we're not going to talk about that. I just want to talk about that part. That was the war in heaven. The war in heaven was for us, the star seeds, whether we were going to be, you know, led by the father or led by the mother. And obviously, the spirits, they always say that they hate us, but I don't think that's the case. I think they all want to work with us. You know what I mean? Because we are the creator gods. We are made in the image of the Most High. So of course there would be a battle for us. You know what I mean? And it's also, this also, anyway, there's a bunch of stuff explained with that. But let's keep going on. I have a couple articles here. Then we have some books. So this is Settled in Heaven Ministries. This is the New World Order 2, the Seven World Empires. So the Word of God has much to say about the concept of a New World Order. We will be studying the New World Order and its biblical implications in a 4-part series. Because what Perry Stone said is each of those 7 serpents' heads controls one of the empires, which is true, but he doesn't talk about the crowns. He only talks about the serpent part, because we'll discuss this a little bit later when I go into the book on the Olympic spirits, but each of the Olympic spirits controls just about 400 years. And so, again, there's a positive side and a negative side with the Olympic spirits. What happened is, not to repeat too much of what I've already said, but what happens is the Olympic spirits, they are the ones that are really in control of the demons. They're the ones who can send demons, literally send them. Not that the Father's angels can't, but they have to work with the Mother's angels in order to send a physical thing. That's just how it works. That's the hierarchy. Because you see, the serpent is connected to, the heads are connected to the serpent, the mother, and the crowns are not connected. They're crowns on their head. So, and then the whole thing about the horns is, never mind, I'm not going to get into that right now because it's going to be too complicated. So, we're not going to get into all this. I just want to do there. Okay, here we go. Throughout history, there have been 7 world empires that have sought, through the use of force, to overtake the rule of the nations that were in existence in their day. The first was Egypt. The second was Assyria. The third was Babylon. The fourth was Persia. The fifth was Greece. The sixth is Rome. And the seventh, they say a variety of world powers. No, it's the Holy Roman Catholic Church, okay? Those people, that Pope and that whole Holy Roman Catholic Church, okay? That's the seventh. Okay, in every case, their attempt to overtake the known world was unsuccessful due to a divine intervention. What does that mean? What does that mean? They don't even understand. They say stuff and they don't even know what that means. It was not divine providence for the demons to rule. What happened was the leaders of these empires called upon the Olympic spirits, and they were unworthy to call upon the Olympic spirits. So what happened? The Olympic spirits, if you're unworthy and you call them, they will send you a demon. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so these people began worshiping these demons because they thought they were angels. That's what the whole the chariot, not the chariot, the lover's card, and the devil card is. That's what that whole thing means, is because these people think they're calling on the angel, but they're really getting sent a demon. That's what that means. That's what's represented in those cards, the angel, the lovers, and the devil. Why would the lovers be opposite the devil? I mean, the reason is because people think that they're calling on the angels, but they're getting sent demons. And so what has happened is that even the demons that are being sent to them are tired of these heathens and these Gentiles. They're tired of them. They have gone too far. Even the demons say that these heathens and these Gentiles have gone too far. And they have gone too far. And that's why, quote unquote, divine providence stepped in. Divine intervention. But who was calling these spirits? It was our people. I mean, Who ruled Egypt? Who ruled all these things? These were people who look like us. So that's the reason why this thing can only be solved by people who look like us. And kudos to all of the reformed Gentiles and the ones who the Most High has given a spirit and a soul to. Kudos to all of them. They're intermixing and whatnot. Little that we understand that is really what gave us the opportunity to get to this point, because without the books that these Gentiles wrote, these ones who are not our people, without these books, we wouldn't be able to have access to this information. So as much as we want to hate, some people want to hate those people, I understand that without those people, without that intermixing that happened at the time, we wouldn't have access to any of this information, because they are the ones who preserve the records. It wasn't our people preserving these records. None of these people writing these books was our people. The first one of our people that was reintroduced, from my understanding, would be Pixie Smith with these tarot cards. But before that, Agrippa wasn't one of our people. John D wasn't one of our people. Now, he might have got the information from one of our people, but he wasn't one of our people. These weren't our people that look like us. They weren't. And so without these people, and we know Rudolf Steiner was not one of our people, and he has all the books on the mother. If you haven't looked at any of Rudolf Steiner's books, and you don't understand the mother. And I really, I'm not going to keep, tiptoeing around this issue, because it's the truth. Anybody talking about the mother that don't understand what Rudolf Steiner was talking about and have never listened to a lecture from an anthroposophist, you don't know the mother. You have no idea what you're talking about. You only guess. You know what I mean? I started out in anthroposophy. I started out learning heavily about the mother. So I just automatically assume people know this stuff, but they don't. So you need to go, there's some people that I have a lot of respect for. They wrote a book called The Gospel of Sophia. You need to go and look that book up. You need to go to I'll leave I'll leave one of the videos in the description. You need to learn about the Grail Queens and who actually preserved our stuff all the way through. And it wasn't necessarily people who look like us. It was women, yes, but it wasn't necessarily women who look like us. That remains to be proven to me. That all these women that were the Grail Queens were our people. That remains to be proven. I don't know about that. So anyway, just needs to be said, because I'm really tired of people using and abusing the mother. They don't know anything about the mother. They don't know anything about the Grail Queens, anything else. And here they are talking about it, and they don't know anything about it. You never read a single research report about the actual literal Grail and the actual literal spear of that pierced the side of Christ. You don't know anything about that. The spear of Longinus. You don't know nothing about that. Don't try it. If you have not done the research and listened to these Gentiles talk about it, who did the real hard uncovering of the research, man, shut the hell up and listen for once to these people who actually do know what they're talking about. And you could test it again if you had access to a pendulum. You could test the spirit with the spirit. But a lot of y'all think that y'all know everything in your heads. Like I said, I don't know anything. All of this stuff is because these angels keep giving me the information, and I'm just presenting to you. I don't proclaim to know any of this stuff. I take the research, I put it to the spirit, and they give me the answers. That's how it's done. Okay. All right. So the truth is presented in the prophecy of Revelation 13:17 through 19. In these verses, a beast with 7 heads is described. It's in 12 too. The 7 heads represent the 7 world empires. Wrong. While the 10 horns on the 7th head represents the 7th world empire, being made up of a varied group of nations. Well, that's not okay. So that's you know what? Let's go to the other article. This is talking about the interventions. I do want to talk about this. In the first empire, Egypt, in Exodus 14:21 through 31, the Egyptian army was drowned in the Red Sea, and that was the end of the Egyptian empire. Who would have done that? Who would have opened the sea? And then who made sure it closed over top of them? 2, in Assyria, 2 Kings 19:35 through 37, the angel of the Lord defeating the Assyrian army at night. 3, in Babylon, Daniel 5:25 through 31, the defeat of Babylon by the Lord through the use of Darius the Median. In Medo-Persia, Daniel 8:2 through 8 and 8 20 through 21, the prophecy of defeat of Persia by the Greek Empire. Greece, the fall of the Greek Empire took place during the silent years of 400 to 0. Interesting. And then Rome fell after the New Testament writings were completed about divine revelation brought to an end. Okay, let's look at the other article. It's this one. Now, this is from jw.org, and I'll try to remember to put all these links so you guys can read the whole thing. Okay, and they don't talk about Revelation 12. They go straight to Revelation 13. I just want to point that out because I just read you in Revelation 12 what this meant. And Revelation 13 says something different. So, that's obvious. Okay, so the Bible's answer. The wild beast with 7 heads is introduced at Revelation 13 and 1. It's not. Represents the worldwide political system. It has authority, power, and the throne, which points to it being a political entity, and it rules over every tribe and people and tongue and nation, so it is greater than a single national government. And the 7th one would probably be the dollar. It combines features of the 4 beasts described in the prophecy at Daniel 7, 2 through 8, including the appearance of a leopard, the feet of a bear, a lion's mouth, and 10 horns. The beasts in Daniel's prophecy are identified as specific kings or political kingdoms that rule in succession over empires. Thus, the wild beast of Revelation chapter 13 represents a composite political organization. It ascends out of the sea, that is, from the turbulent masses of mankind that are source of human governments. That would be the shadow, right? The Bible says that the number or name of the beast, 666, is a man's number, but it could also be 999, which is the mother, 333 is the Christos Sophia, the child. 666 is the Holy Sophia, the Holy Spirit, and then 999 is the mother. Okay, that's the 3, 6, and a 9. All right. That expression indicates the beast of Revelation is a human entity, not a spirit or demon entity. Even though the shadow, that's the shadow, you know what I mean? Even though the nations may agree on few things, they unite under their determination to maintain their authority rather than submit to the rule of God's kingdom. That's Psalm 2 and 2. They will also join forces to battle God's army commanded by Jesus Christ in Armageddon, but this war will result in the nations being destroyed by their shadow, right? The 10 horns and the 7 heads. Certain numbers are used symbolically in the Bible. For example, 10 and 7 represent completeness. The key to understanding the specific meaning of the 10 horns and 7 heads of the beast is the image of the wild beast identified later in Revelation, a bright red beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns. Never talks about Revelation 12, which is weird. The Bible says that the 7 heads of the red beast mean 7 kings or governments. Likewise, the 7 heads of the beast in Revelation 13 represents 7 governments, the primary political powers that have dominated through history and have taken the lead in oppressing God's people. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, Rome, and Anglo-America. Actually, I would say that it's the financial system, really, led by the Catholics. If we conclude that the 10 horns represent all sovereign states, small and large, then the diadem or crown on each one represents that each nation rules concurrently with the primary political power of the time. That could be true too, is that they rule together, and that I would say that is true, because if the Olympic spirit rule, if the mother spirit rules for almost 400 years, that means that the father spirit must rule for the same amount of time. They must rule together. I haven't seen that in a book, but that's the only conclusion you can come to based on what this says. Okay, so one more article, and then we're gonna. Well, this is into a book. I actually did link to this. This is about the Olympic spirits. So this is an article called "The Little Book of Black Venus, Part 2: Olympic Spirits, the Cult of the Dark Goddess, and the Seal of Ameth." And I'll link to this so you guys can take a look at this article. I already did, but I'll put it in the description. All right, so 5. We're going to start in 5. And I did read some of this before, but we're going to relate it to some other things. In the early 1900s, some shepherds from the village of Simo led the professor, that guy, to a rock they called the Fairy's Horn, where a vivid scene of hunting magic had been carved and recarved on the stone outcropping century after century. The professor wrote a paper of this find, but it would take many years for his work and that of other researchers would start to gel. In 1954, so this is 1900s. It was 1954, the discovery of, and this is kind of small, of the Borno menhir, a carved stone of a type we will examine in detail later, followed the Carmonica Valley carvings to enjoy a 10-year-long vogue among European archaeologists, mostly Italians. By the late 60s, the subject faded again, and enthusiasts thwarted by the mute and unintelligibility of the pictoglyphs. This is unfortunate because pictoglyphs have important things to tell us about the dawn of civilization. The earliest images date from the late Neolithic, about 300 BC. These images are mostly sun discs with labyrinths and geometric designs. Some of these are shown with worshipping figures, but most are isolated splendor. The archaeologist knows the culture that carved these images as the Untis, after a field in Prague where the original discovery of the culture was made. This culture congealed from the economic pressures of the Ambertade in the Carmonica Valley, foothills of the Alps, near to have been a holy place. And you'll have to look at my other videos for some more information on that. In recent years, archaeologists searching for a cultural context for the pictoglyphs have generated wide range of interpretations, from looking at the prevalence of hunt scenes to connecting the blacksmith drawings with the development of metallurgy, to commenting on sexual and shamanic imagery and speculating on its connection to a solar cult, looking at the house images and connecting them to a ecstatic women's cult, perhaps one linked back to the story of Theseus and the labyrinth. Okay, and those are the Olympic spirit sigils. And it seems likely that the anonymous Paracelsian author of the Arbatel derived at least some of the names and the sigils of the Olympic spirits from this ancient background. The Unitis culture had elements of the old European mother goddess cult embedded in it like a fly in the precious amber they traded, but it also had elements of an Indo-Aryan, almost proto-Celtic patriarchy. Perhaps this unique balance produced its long-term stability. The balance of the mother and the father produce long-term stability. Just peep this. And you know, Indo-Aryan is our people. Proto-Celtic is our people. These are our people. And this is how they had kingdoms like Solomon that lasted so long in peace. They combined the mother and the father together. That's what Solomon did. Okay? Traces of ancient beliefs can still be found all along the route of the amber trade from Lithuania to the Aegean Sea. The earliest images in the valley show the radiating sun disk with three branching rays or horns similar to the ox sigil. This similarity grew more apparent as the sun disk symbolism gathered into a stag cult, and images of a sun disk from which the horns of the stag emerged and became the common early Bronze Age across Europe. But remember, we did this in our Evil Eye. We learned about this in our Evil Eye lesson. Horns is representative of the mother. So if you have a sun, look at these sun symbols. The ones that have in the let's go back to the Ankh symbol, which is literally a circle with horns. That's a representation of like the mother and the father together. And if you notice, a lot of these symbols have circles on them. 1, 2, 3. Actually, 3 of them have circle on them. Which 3 are those? Well, we have this moon. That's the first one, Fool. Those have circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. You have Ophiel, which is Mercury. That has 1 circle on it. And Ankh has 1 circle on it. So why would you have 7 circles amongst these 7 things? I mean, there's no, questions about what this stuff is once you understand the symbology. So, here they show you some more symbols, right? Here we go. Fool, the moon, Phaleg, Mars have sigils that can be traced for centuries on the rock walls of the valley. Fool's parallel lines and connected by arching tangent are perhaps the most common motif of the entire valley. What is that? Called the temple. What is that? Fool, aka Lilith. Okay? They were invoking Lilith, and some of these people were not quite right, and that's why they kept getting demons. This is what was happening. So we have confirmation right here of some of the other stuff I said in my videos. Fool's parallel lines connected by an arching tangent are perhaps the most common motif of the entire valley, called the temple or sacred house, designed by archaeologists. This is an intriguing clue that we will return to later. Phaleg's telescoping length design is also extremely common in the valley. Phaleg is Mars. So you have the Mars energy, which is Adam. Okay? Mars, Adam. And Lilith, Moon. Right? First man, first woman. This is just I hadn't even read all of this. This is a confirmation. All right. I'm sorry. I'm very excited. Okay, where it appears with the images of sacred animals, particularly the stag, which is the mother, right? Horns, all right? This is the fascinating indeed, since the Arbitel tells us that Phaleg has the antlers of stag on his head. The identification of the Olympic spirits with the gods and goddesses of the Unities culture and its relics in Carmonica carvings become even clearer when we consider the case of Ophiel or Mercury. And remember, Mercury is what is ruling us right now. We're about 200 years into Mercury, right? And then we're going into the moon, or full, as far as the Olympic spirits are concerned. The name Ophiel surprises us. In Hebrew, meaning being or messenger of light. And this, oh my goodness. Oh, Father. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. It's Hebrew, meaning being or messenger of light. And the sigil given for it is an artificial sigil derived from the Christian Kabbalah. This is interesting enough, since the use of this sort of rose and cross sigil thought to have originated with the Rosicrucians, who did not appear for 40 years after the Arbitel was published. The anonymous author can be seen as the proto-Rosicrucian Paracelsian, who had good reason to hide the real Olympic name and sigil of the spirit of Mercury. Okay, let's look at the spirit of wait, she said Ophiel. Yeah, Ophiel. That's the one right there. The one I talked about, Ophiel. You can see it's got a circle in the middle. Let's go back down and see why. Why could that reason have been? Consider this roundabout way of answering the question. If we think it is possible that some of these oral traditions survived into 1890s, then we might look at Charles G. Leland's 1899 Aradia, The Gospel of the Witches. Gathered from sources in the same northern Italy valleys as the Benedonti, Leland's Diana has all sorts of pagan secrets in her care. But the most interesting of Aradia's revelations is that Diana was in love with her brother, who was the god of splendor and light. Diana is the moon goddess, the Olympic fool, and so her brother, that the planet could be in the same position to the sun as the moon, to the earth, could only be Mercury. Wait, let me read that again. Diana was in love with her brother, who was the god of splendor and light. Diana is the moon goddess, the Olympic fool, and so her brother, that is the planet in the same position to the sun as the moon to the earth, could only be Mercury. Wow. Wow. Okay. If the Aradia information can be trusted, then it becomes obvious why the anonymous author of the Arbitel went so much trouble to give the pseudonym of the Olympic spirit of Mercury. This is the Gospel of the Witches, declares the opening sentence of Leland's text. Diana greatly loved her brother Lucifer, the god of light and splendor, who for his pride was driven from paradise. The anonymous author of the Arbitel could have been burnt as a devil worshipper if the name of the Olympic spirit of Mercury suggested Lucifer, even in its Celtic form of Lu. So the wise author chose a clever Hebrew gloss, which could allow an initiate to figure out the true meaning, but would confuse the unlearned. Wow. So that means, wow, y'all, that is super deep. Okay, let me just take a pause and explain this. What this means. Why it means this. But I can't even go on. Okay, so we have already figured out This brings all the information together. This is unbelievable. We've already figured out not me, but the Spirit already told me that what they call the tree of death is not the tree of death. It's the mother's angel. So if you look on like Pinterest or something, they have a tree of life and a tree of death. The tree of death is what I was told is the mother's angels, right? And they call it the tree of death because they don't want us to worship the mother, right? But at the same time, they worship the mother. But also at the same time, they call upon those Olympic spirits, right? And when they call upon those Olympic spirits, they're calling upon the mother. But because they are wicked in their intentions, they're getting the demonic side. They're sending them demons. And so they're attributing to, they're attributing to these Olympic spirits what is to demons. It's being attributed to demons when really that's not what those spirits are. It's just that the heathens and the Gentiles are wicked. So those spirits are sending them demons. So what the person who wrote the Arbitel did, he gave that Ophiel he gave that spirit a Hebrew name so you wouldn't figure out that it was Lucifer. And I didn't realize that until I just read this with y'all. So what we would call Enoch on the Father's angels. Oh my goodness, this cannot be true. This has to be true. On the what we call Enoch, i.e., Mercury on the Father's side, we will call Lucifer, or the Sibyls on the mother's side. The spirit messengers. That's what the Sibyls are. And what I was going to say is the Sibyls were the female version of Lucifer, the Sibyl spirit, but it's Lucifer, the Sibyl spirit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't believe this. Y'all, I can't believe this because I just asked this. I mean, I just got this information. This is not, I didn't have a chance to even process this. I was like, I got to record this video right now. I just got this information this morning, like right before I started recording this video, that the female version of Enoch was the Sibyl. And that the Sibyl, all these, because, they say, oh, Enoch wrote 36,000 books, right? So where are all those books at? Well, if you look at all the books that they have by the Sibyls, which is all the Eddas, all the Vedas, those are all the books that are attributed to the Sibyls, or the female version of Enoch, or Lucifer. We have to rethink Lucifer. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm saying that out of my mouth. There's no words for this kind of information because nobody would be bold enough to say anything like this. And to back it up, I have videos. I've been building to this point and I didn't know that that's what this is. So this is why you have the heathens and the Gentiles. It's they have a backwards way. Okay, think about the what was that? The Grammys or whatever just happened, and they had Lucifer out there. That guy. They're trying to reinforce in the minds of the people that Lucifer is a demon. And there's another part of this where I have to pull up the other book, but that's not what that is. That's not what that is. That means we have to rethink everything. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Because this is why you have this extreme push to, demonize tarot cards, this extreme push to, reinforce in our minds that, Satan, or is this, whatever being and whatever, and these are not even the same. Satan, quote unquote, is not the same as Lucifer. You know, all these entities, they're not the same. They're not the same. And they just gave them all the same title. So when somebody hears you say something like that, they just, wow. I guess I better say something. I don't even know what to say. This is shocking. All right. So let's just keep reading. Wow. In a study of the etymology of names in the false myth, Goebel makes the same argument that about both Ophiel and Mephistopheles, that both refer to Lucifer, or serpent god. Oh my goodness. The mother. Because of their association with Hermes Trismegistus, the guardian god of the magicians, alchemists, and astrologers, who is Enoch. Holy smokes. Wow. Perhaps some anonymous. I was not expecting to have a sentence that literally just summed it all up. This is shocking, you guys. Perhaps some anonymous initiate was leaking the Olympic spirits into Western Europe's magical corpus by way of the Arbatel. It's no surprise that some of the most direct evidence we have of a witch cult separate from the Inquisitor's imagination appears in the civic records of northern Italy, including that of Carmonica Valley. In March of 1575, Father Bartolomeo, the village priest of Barzano in the heart of the Pictoglyph country, was worried about witchcraft. A strange story had come to his attention, and being deeply disturbed by it, he sought the advice of the Father Inquisitor of the monastery of St. Francis in Sivendale, which lies at the lower end of the Carmonica Valley. Along the way, he chanced upon the subject of the story, Paolo Gasparato, and conducted him in the monastery as a witness. The story had the good father so excited, concerned a group of vagabonds which Gasparuto claimed wandered out of body at night, saving children from the witches and ensuring a good harvest. Oh my gosh. In front of the Father Inquisitor, Gasparuto readily confirmed the story and added many new details to his account. Trying to make sense of this information, Father Bartolomeo, that's my uncle's name, continued that a group of witches existed called in their own words Benandanti, which means good walkers, and who prevent the evil that other witches commit. Oh my gosh. After another session of questions later that week, the Father Inquisitor decided that Gasparuto was given to tall tales. Who were these Benandanti? They were none other than the followers of Diana, condemned as a delusion by Regino of Prüm in the 10th century. William of Auvergne mentions this in his 13th century whole work, which he was still at work on when he died, that the common people believed in a mysterious divinity called Arbuntia or Satia, who were wanderers through houses looking for offerings. If one is found, health and prosperity is bestowed upon the dwelling. William of Auvergne seems to think this was diabolical lady of good, being in fact a demon. Because they see demons in everything. They only see the demons. They never see. Y'all, this is and this whole Ben and Dante, this is exactly what the sisters and I have been, called really to do. Like, I didn't choose to say I'm going to help people, and stop these wicked people from doing this stuff, but this is what we were called directly into. This is amazing. This is amazing. I read this article, but I didn't mean anything until just now. Look at this. More to this point, though, is the allusion to Dame Aban and her followers in the medieval romance Roman de la Rose. The poet suggests that there are those who believe, although he considers it a horrible folly, that third-borns were obliged to go 3 times a week to the homes of their neighbors in the company of Dame Aban. Nothing could stop them, since only their souls traveled, but if their bodies were turned over, their souls would never return. In many respects, these stories echo Gasparuto's tale of the Benandanti. It is easy to understand the Father Inquisitor's skepticism and Father Bartholomew's confusion. Faced with a confession like this, made freely without torture, that confirms the existence of witchcraft but asserts that the accused is a good witch, seems to be the product of a deranged mind, as the Father Inquisitor suggested. This shows us clearly, with our advantage of historical perspective, how desperately far apart the common people and the intelligentsia actually were in the Middle Ages. But Gasparuto and his neighbors are well aware of the existence of the Benandanti. It is, at their level, accepted part of life. In the Benandanti, we glimpse, which must mean Sybil, right? We glimpse the survival of the original Neolithic cult whose pictograph remains have been found in the Carmonica Valley. The Dame Aban, called Abantia or Satia, may well be the good lady of our Olympic spirit Ak, whose sigil, the 3-rayed solar disk, is the oldest of all images in the Carmonica Valley. The mother. The confusion of names come from the educated inquisitors and priests trying to make sense of the local peasant superstitions. To make any sense of it at all, we must go back to that Kov menhir found in 1954 on the Borano stone, which that's what this is, right? The thumb-shaped stone, about 4 feet high, may perhaps be one of the oldest carvings in the valley. It is marked with a thermal spring near the tiny village of Borno, whose name echoes the Celtic god springs of healing, Bormo. Y'all, I can't. The stone itself shows radiating headdress of the sun goddess above a field of 8 pairs of spirals. Each pair of spirals is an interesting doubled effect that, produced by almost phallic extension of the line, allows the flow to reverse. This is a complex symbol for the balance of masculine and feminine forces, the very issues that the Unities culture seems to have resolved. The Borno or healing god menhir demonstrates how this was accomplished by balancing the masculine energy with an equal flow of feminine energy. Y'all, this is, I can't believe this. Across the valley near Caven, another menhir was found with an overwhelmingly powerful, eerie image on it. A sun disk surrounded by 5 concentric circles radiates 2 similar rays and a different middle ray that looks like a stairway. On either side of the sun disk is 2 smaller and lower disks, and off to one side is 2 pair of spirals in the same design as on the Borno stone. Below the radiating rays and the stairway is a torque-like necklace. This necklace and radiating headdress can be considered as the same symbol, simply reversed in direction. The headdress is the celestial power, the necklace is the terrestrial. The Caven stone allows an archetypal glimpse of how power descends. And notice, wait a minute, the necklace, wow, okay. And notice there's a pyramidal shape to the expression. These menhir mark important places in the landscape to the Neolithic and Chalcolithic people who carved them. They mark the flow of power, whether down from the sky or up from the earth. At both places, they chose to note the balancing formula, the old European equivalent of the yin-yang symbol, the double spiral as a part of the aspect of this place. These menhir mark nodal points on the landscape, and the paths were oriented from one to the other. They mark the winding track of the ancient trading paths, but the sight lines between them tend to be dead straight. An interesting way to put it, as the straight tracks became the spirit paths, the cavalcade of the dead, the procession of souls, the wild hunt. Wild Hunt is, I think it's a death card. The placement of the Borno menhir and its Caven cousin point to an advanced awareness of earth energies and geomancy on the part of the original Unities culture. No one, to our knowledge, has ever tried on the Carmonica Valley of the sort of straight line exercise that has crisscrossed Britain with lays. Hold up. We have the ley lines. Okay. But the results will be fascinating and instructive as there seems to be several obvious alignments. One of these is the line between Cavan and Borno, which crosses the Great Walk of Nakane. On the other side of the Alps, these straight paths between ancient sites were thought to be tracks of the Wild Hunt, an army or procession of restless dead that wandered through the Ember Weeks. The Wild Hunt resembles in many ways the Benandanti of the Carmonica Valley and the Friuli Plain. The Wild Hunt usually led by figures that echo the Olympic spirits Phaleg and Haggith, Mars and Venus. It is easy to recognize a form of the mother goddess, the sun's daughter in Haggith, and Madame Holda or Percha, the Bavarian Wild Hunt. Phaleg, shown with stag horns of the Arbitel, is the ancient Celtic Churanos, the lord of the animals. In Britain, they're talking about Haggith, right? Phaleg, okay. The lord of the animals, or Adam, who named the animals, right? In Britain, he was Herne the Hunter, and there's a legend connecting him with the Straight Windsor Forest. The Wild Hunt ranged in the mist from Yugoslavia to Ireland, with the presence of Phaleg and Haggith in the Wild Hunt legends can be traced from country to country. Its ancient meaning survived along with the Benandanti at least until the 17th century or perhaps longer. Now remember, Haggith or Venus is also the dew. So the dew, the Air Kadeshi are the ones who would be following Adam or man. That's exactly what it is. The Air Kadeshi follow man. We have 4 whole books about that process, right? The books of remembrance. Fool, the Olympic spirit attributed to the moon, has a sigil that we noted was similar to the temple house design of the archaeologists. In its earliest appearance, the temple design is actually the labyrinth, mostly the anthropomorphic variant of the 9 stone mazes. One of the oldest, most and best preserved can be seen on the Nakine Rock, which happens to lie on the spirit line from Bono to Cavern. And that's what the rock looks like. Okay, it is worth looking briefly at this design, one of man's oldest and most common. Now that's interesting. We begin with 9 points. Y'all already know 9 is the mother. Arranged in a flattened X with the 9th point in the center. From this, the endless knot of the Celtic folk can be derived, as can the 5 yin-yang symbols and the fly knot or the floppy cross. The basic labyrinth is derived from the same 9 points by first adding 2 perpendicular lines through the point and 4 right angles enclosing the outer 4 points. If we draw a circle around this, we have straight lines marking the equinoxes, and solstices, the enclosed point marking the quarter Sabbaths, giving us the wheel of the year. Holy God. The 4 angles are the 4 elements, and the center of the course is the spirit. This gives us the old European medicine wheel, or the tarot spiral. Wow. This labyrinth can be developed by connecting the top center line. I just told you how to do it. Utter simplicity, but what a depth of symbolism. Wow. Within a few hundred years, the great Nakane Rock would see the evolution of the labyrinth of the original sigil of Fool, the moon goddess and the mistress of the dead, Lilith. Today, this image is still startling, even hidden as it is by centuries of carving over and around it. We see a skull-like structure with a radiating headdress in the carving of the rock, and looking at the Olympic sigil in the Arbitel, we are struck by the resemblance on the schematic level. Simplified and refined, they are the same image. Even a stranger, if we read the list of images associated with Fool by Dr. Rudd, a king like an Arthur riding on a doe, a little boy, a woman hunter with a bow and arrows, a cow, a doe, a goose, an arrow, a creature having many feet. It seems almost as if we're reading the list of images carved on the Nakane Rock that are closely associated and grouped with the original full image. Did actual knowledge of the cultic significance of the rock survive long enough for the images to be translated into the 6 pages of Dr. Rudd's grimoire? It would appear that it did. This is, look at this. This is unbelievable. All right, let's this video is getting kind of long, but we got a book to go into.